Good evening and welcome to the Kelly Wright Show from my home in Maryland because we're still under a shutdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I guess I should start saying, welcome to my home. And you're always welcome here. My family extends an invitation to each and every one of you to come on in and enjoy the program. Although we're practicing social distancing, but we're not isolating ourselves from expressing our love and our passion and compassion for everything that we're going through with regards to coronavirus and trying to lift people up, which leads me to my opening observations today. You know, as this coronavirus continually disrupts our lives, it's important that each and every one of us keep our mind focused on doing something good throughout our neighborhood, and we can do that on social media. I'll give you a case in point. I went upstairs to just check in on my wife who was in her office. And when I walked in, she was actually reading a book to her students through the computer. Her students were on the other side in their different homes, and she was reading a little nursery rhyme to them. She's an early childhood educator. And so she was teaching young 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, preparing them for their education, continuing on to do the good work that teachers do. And that is a lesson to me. Hopefully it's a lesson to each and every one of us to keep on getting up every day and living every day to the fullest and maximize your vibrant best life now. And so those are my opening observations. And now to the fact that we are dealing with COVID-19. I want to introduce you to Katrina Pearson. She is a member of the Trump campaign, and we are still living in an electoral process. There's still an election being planned, but we took a different take with Katrina. We talked to her about COVID-19, not about the election, but about responding to this deadly peril that we're all facing because of coronavirus. Here now is that interview via Zoom. Joining me now on the Kelly Wright Show is Katrina Pearson. She is a member of the Trump administration. She's a spokesperson for the administration. And Katrina, in these troubled times that we're living in, I appreciate you taking the time out to come on the program and tell us where we are right now. The president, of course, is giving a grim forecast along with Dr. Anthony Fauci. Things will get worse before they get better. The latest numbers stating that we might reach 200,000 deaths in the wake of this COVID pandemic. Tell me what you think is happening and how is the president leading the nation right now?
Well, thanks for having me on, Kelly. And, you know, I don't speak for the administration, I speak for the president's campaign. But the president has been extremely forthright in having these COVID briefings that we're seeing a lot of. Some of them go on for hours. When you have people like Dr. Fauci and others who are presenting information to the American public and trying not to predict the outcomes, but really just giving people along the way the progress that's being made with the administration. Since the announcement in January, the president has taken on extraordinary measures, putting the full force of the federal government in place to take action to stop the spread of the virus and to protect the American people.
As you know, it has not gone without criticism. People have criticized the president and being, or the United States government, as a matter of fact, being caught flat-footed with this pandemic. But historically, how do you think the president has fared, and how will he continue to help lead the country in the wake of this pandemic?
Historically, I think the president is going to come out looking like a phenomenal leader, one that many of us wish we had decades ago. When we look at the depletion of the masks and how that was simply ignored under the previous administration, when we look at the supplies that weren't kept, and those who are as big as critics, Kelly, were those who've been in office for decades. These are the people who voted to have the manufacturing sent outside of the country. These are the people who voted to put other countries ahead of America to begin with. These are all of the things that President Trump campaigned against back in 2016, and it's all come to fruition. So we're just all lucky as Americans to have someone like President Trump who is committed and dedicated to the American people, not the special interests and not these globalist ideas that have been siphoning off all of America's resources, whether it's from energy or even to medical supplies. This is where we are today. The president has warned against China. He's warned about borders. He's warned about manufacturing. And all of these things have come to pass. And President Trump has taken extraordinary measures, not only to make sure that this doesn't happen again, but to take action now, today, not talk about it and get into the politics like the Democrats and the press are trying to do right now. They're literally trying to tear the president down when America is in crisis. But President Trump is steadfast and moving forward. He has one gear, and that is forward for the American people.
And Katrina, one of the reasons why I enjoy having you and members of the Trump administration on this program is because I want to be able to hear voices from all sides, the left, the right, the White House, the Congressional House, the State House, the local house, my house, your house, because we're all in this together. And we have to understand that fundamentally, the coronavirus knows no color. It knows no distinction politically. It knows no leader. It only knows disruption and death. And that's on a global level. So to the person that I know, Katrina Pearson, you personally, how are you seeing this and how are you weathering the storm?
Well, this is a human component, right? We're all seeing the fragility of our existence today, and we should be coming together. The Trump campaign, we're all now working from home. We're doing our part. We're doing our part in our communities to make sure that those who aren't able to get out and get their groceries, to make sure that they have them. We're doing our part with first responders at hospitals and anonymously delivering meals. So we're doing everything that we can in our capacity to help along this process. I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home. Not everyone is so lucky. And so we want to make sure that everyone that we can reach has access to some type of resource, some type of relief, whether it's, taking our platform and having a psychologist come on and explain to parents, how to translate this crisis to your children, because you don't want to traumatize them and you don't want them to live in fear for the rest of their lives. So we're trying to bring in new avenues, new lines of sight even for many Americans who don't have the ability to either work from home or care for their children at home. And it's just truly been an enlightening moment. And we would hope that an opportunity like this would bring more people together. And that's just not true for everyone. And it's a tragedy.
We have to get to a point, Katrina, that all sides come together. This is not one of division, but one that hopefully will unite all of us, regardless of our political stripes and the colors we wear. But the faith that we hold dear should
Absolutely
resonate loud and clear. Katrina Pearson, always a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for being on this program. You're welcome back anytime.
great to see you.
All sides on the Kelly.
Thank you so much.
And by the way, stay safe.
You as well.
All right. God bless you. Welcome back to the program. As you know, many people are dying from the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's also noteworthy to point out that while the death toll is rising, the number of those surviving and getting through COVID-19 after testing positive is also increasing, and that number is very inspirational. Joining me now is a very inspirational man. His name is Marvin Kratch. He is a pastor, an ordained minister, but he's also the CEO of CVE. Now that stands for Christian Vision Entertainment Network, which is a small streaming service with large global plans. And indeed, they're seeking to do that on a faith-based perspective. Marvin joins us now because Marvin, I understand that you have tested positive for the coronavirus.
Yes, I have. Welcome. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, you were in the hospital, as I understand it, with pneumonia, but you also had a predisposed condition with your heart, and that made you susceptible to testing positive for coronavirus. Is that right?
Yes, it's like from what I've read and was told, it picks up on weaknesses of the body, and it attacks those areas. So I was open and accessible to it because I had a weak heart, and now I've attracted it and have to do what's necessary to strengthen my heart and everything else.
Now, before you were released from the hospital, did doctors advise you to do or follow any kind of regimen to help you as you undergo a quarantine status because of coronavirus?
Well, when I left the hospital, they told me they cut off giving me the medication after a week. And they said that, you know, they've done what they could with the medication, that for some reason I'm strength. They don't know the strength that I've had was coming from somewhere. And I knew where, but I'm just wanted to be more open to them. I followed the instructions of the medical team to see what it would take to get me back home. And, you know, when you get home, they said, this is what we need you to do. We need you to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks. Right now, you're going to be all right. You won't need, I asked what medicine would I need when I'm home? They said none. So I was like, what do you mean none? They said, it's going to go through you. We don't know why, but I said, it's going to go through you. And, you know, me being ministry, I said miracles, signs, and wonders, brother. That's all I can say. And I just went through the process, and I go through now just having oxygen because of the heart and the lung situation. I take that when I need it, and I just stay focused on making sure that I don't put myself in a germophobic situation.
So you're following all the advice in terms of proper hygiene, cleaning your hands every 20 seconds.
Right. Keeping away from people and that can be affected, not just by me, because I'm going to be okay. But what I'm saying is, I don't want to invite a germ in or to get someone's mindset twisted because they think that I'm going to give them something.
Right.
So I stay with the regimen of being isolated from others.
I should make note of the fact that you work in the New York and New Jersey area, and those are some of the hardest hit areas in the country right now. And we've yet to see how high or how difficult it will become, because there's a lot of burdens there with the U.S. Navy naval ship moving in to help alleviate some of the stress on health responders there. You're there in the Newark, New Jersey, East Orange, West Orange areas. How hard hit has that been, Marvin?
Well, from what I understand, we took a hit on different areas. One is, like you said, New York is the mecca of everything else. So anything coming into the country goes through New York Kennedy. Anything coming in from this end stops in Newark International. So you're going to be hit with people coming in from wherever they're coming from. And if they happen to have picked up this virus and they go through and throughout our corridors, you're going to encounter someone that's been affected somewhere along the line. So in this area, it's been hit hard, but from what I understand, the medical teams here are doing an awesome job. They're making sites set up that people can go and get tested. And I just said, don't be fearful. Be knowledgeable. Go and make sure that you're okay. It's not a death sentence if you do the right thing.
That's well said. And of course, you are a man of faith and you have a faith network. How is faith, I should say, sustaining you and helping you to deal with this COVID-19 virus that you have?
Kelly, I'm glad you asked that on a faith basis, because I wasn't always saved. And I made a promise to God that if he saved me, I'd serve him all the days of my life. And I know that he could have left me back years ago in the holes that I were in if he had not had a great plan for me for the future. So I believe that all this too shall pass, because I know that if I follow his will, that everything else will vacate. And I like to tell people, we are the landlords of our bodies. If you got anything in you that's not right, evict it in Jesus' name. And he said anything in his name he will do, correct? So just call on him. And that's what I do. When I got sick, I didn't panic. I always said if I knew I was going to die from something or something was going to affect me, it would probably blow my mind. But Kelly, I trust God so much that I know that he'll bring me through this. He said, activate your prepaid faith card. So that's what I did. I activated my prepaid faith card. And I believe that God didn't give it to me until now, because he knows that I need it. And I keep my faith in knowing that I'm going to walk through this and be a testimony for somebody, to help somebody. They don't have to be saved, Mr. Wright. They don't have to be anything. If you need me, call me. I'll give you advice on how to get through this. We can do it together. And that's what all I can say.
Marvin, I appreciate you so much and for sharing your story and providing us a lot of insight into what you're going through. I think anyone watching this is marveling at your faith. It's marvelous, it's wondrous. It's the Lord's doing, and we appreciate you for sharing that. And we're praying for you as you go through this quarantine. And anytime you need me, reach out and touch us. We're ready, always here on the Kelly Wright Show, prepared to help you. And best of blessings to you and your network, the Christian Vision Entertainment Network. Some good work being done over there as well. God bless you.
Thank you so much. May God continue to bless you and your network and all that you guys are doing, reaching people all over the world, being a blessing to others as God has been great to you.
Thank you, Marvin. All right.
God bless.
Marvin Kretsch here on the Kelly Wright Show. We're coming back with much more after the break. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show. On with me now is Dr. Gary Donovitz, and he specializes in hormonotherapy. Gary, break that down for me. What does that mean, and how does it help us in the age of the COVID-19 pandemic?
So what I do is optimize both men and women's hormones. It's not just hormone replacement therapy, it's hormone optimization, which is different because over the years, people have gotten hormones, but they've gotten the wrong hormones, or the wrong amount of hormones, or they never stayed on their hormone therapy because it wasn't right for them. What I do is very much consistent with precision medicine. Every patient gets what they need, which hormones they need at the right amount. By doing that, by doing it precisely and individualized, people feel better with very few side effects. So that's really cool. Right now, it's so important because with COVID-19 out there, the problem is people's immune systems are not ready for this virus. We don't have a great treatment, as you know, Kelly, so that's a big problem. But what we can do is boost our immune system. And we have a number of ways to boost our immune system. One is hormone optimization, because if you don't sleep well, your immune system is depressed. You know that. It's like not eating well, your immune system is depressed. And so when that all happens, the problem comes in is we don't feel our best, and our immune system's not able to handle that virus. Also, having to stay at home, the social distancing that we're having to do, and now that's been extended, you're not used to being at home. And so doing all that's creating a lot of anxiety. The stock market's going down. A lot of people lost their jobs. And because of all of that, there's a lot more anxiety and depression. So if we could control the anxiety, if we could decrease the depression, we can also boost the immune system. So that's part of what we do. And that's a real start, getting your hormones checked, getting your hormones optimized. Now, thyroid hormone, which is also something that we optimize, is very important. So thyroid hormone actually is a great immune booster. It actually stimulates those stem cells in your body to produce more immune cells so that you're able to attack that virus much better. So without thyroid, and people who are hypothyroid or low on their thyroid, their immune system can't handle that virus. They don't have enough cells to attack that virus, and then starts the respiratory complications.
That is fascinating and something that many people are not aware of. Now, you were talking about how to do this therapy, but how do we do it if we're at home and being told to shelter in place and only leave in cases of dire emergencies, such as medical emergencies? How do you administer this hormonal treatment to help people boost their immune systems?
So Kelly, that's a great question. First of all, there are labs to draw your labs, and they're turning around those labs for us in a day or two. So you can go to a drawing station. Most of the time, you just walk in, get your labs drawn, and then you leave. So you're not going to be out in a big public space exposed to other people. So that's a nice thing. The consultation for hormone optimization by all of our providers can be done now under the new regulations through telemedicine. So it can be all be done just like you and I are talking on the computer. I can see you, you can see me, and we can do the consult right now. Then you simply have to come into the office for a 5-minute procedure. But that procedure is nice because it's quick, but it also doesn't consume any of the personal protective equipment that's under regulation right now. So for what we do, we are considered an essential function. So we're not shut down. We're an essential function in that we're decreasing what's going on with this virus. We are boosting your immune system. We are making sure if you do get infected, the complications will be less. And we haven't even talked about the other things that we do with our nutraceuticals, because we boost your vitamin D level, which decreases your susceptibility to respiratory infections. We have another nutraceutical that has zinc in it, which stabilizes those lung cells so they're less likely to get invaded by the virus. In addition, we have 2 peptides, the most important peptides that you can get right now, and we have those. One's thymosin alpha-1. Thymosin alpha-1 was one of the peptides that showed great response to the H1N1 virus, and it also has shown great response to this virus, especially in prevention. So if you do get exposed, or you could get exposed, and you want to reduce your chances for getting an infection, thymosin alpha-1 is one peptide that is so important. The other is one called Selank that's been around for years, was actually formed overseas, and it's actually a nasal spray that we have. Easy to administer, so again, you can do both the thymosin, which is a little subcutaneous injection, but you can do it to yourself. It's a little bitty small insulin needle. It doesn't hurt. And the Selank, which is nasal, you can do all that while you socially distance in your home. And it's the best way to actually boost your immune system and prevent you from getting this virus and prevent you from the serious side effects of this virus. So that's 4 or 5 ways that you can boost your immune system and avoid the complications of this horrible virus.
I appreciate you so much for bringing this information to our attention here on the Kelly Wright Show. We'll have to stay in contact with you to follow how patients are doing with this and how people can get help. This is certainly information that can arm us, and we need everything at the ready. So, Doctor, thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks, Kelly. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe. Welcome back to the program. Joining me now is Dr. Robin Armstrong. He is an internist and a hospitalist, and he's joining me from Texas. Doc, where are you coming from to us from Texas today?
Well, right now I'm in, my home is Friendswood, Texas. I'm actually coming from a hospital here in Clear Lake, Texas right now. We've got a couple of medical centers here. And so right now I'm actually at University of Texas Medical Branch in Clear Lake.
Now, you're dealing with a lot of different patients, and I understand that you're actually responding to the needs of some patients who have tested positive for coronavirus.
Yes, sir.
And how is that going in terms of treating them?
Well, what we're seeing in Texas is most of those patients are getting better, and so that's the positive part. But what I've seen over the last few days, I'm actually responsible. There's another hospital that that we have a lot of patients in, Mainland Medical Center in Texas City, and I'm also responsible for sort of determining which patients are PUIs, which are persons under investigation, and which patients we're going to test for the COVID-19 virus for. And so over the last, so I get a lot of calls from different hospitals, asking my recommendation on what we should do, if we should send them down or not, if they should send the patient to us or not. And so what I'm seeing is that the patients are getting a little bit sicker. I've seen that over the last 2 to 3 days. So here in Texas, we're not seeing a huge uptick in numbers, fortunately. So we have plenty of personal protective equipment, and we have plenty of ventilators and all that. We're not seeing the shortages that they're having in New York. But what we are seeing is an uptick in the number of very sick patients who are getting admitted to the hospital, and so that's a change for us. What we were seeing previously were patients that were coming in and they were having some mild symptoms, and we were sending them back home and telling them to shelter in place, quarantine themselves for 14 days. But now we're having to admit a few more people who are a little more sick. And so that's a big change for over the last few days.
And those ailments you just mentioned, Doc, are quite prevalent, unfortunately, within the African American community.
Yes.
Therefore, are you seeing a number of cases, coronavirus cases, spike within the African American community?
Ironically enough, I'm not. I'm not seeing it affect that community now. Certainly, as you say, logic would assert that you would see an uptick in a more socioeconomically depressed area. I think what we're seeing it more is in urban areas. We're certainly seeing it more so, but I haven't seen a lot of African Americans who are ill. We have had a few, but that population is acting much the same like any other population. If you're healthy, you get better. If you're sick, then you tend to have a little more medical issues with it. But I haven't seen a huge number of people, and so I'm a little skewed in the numbers, so I can't say that it's not the case. But I think that generally, just in a sicker population, you're going to see the numbers higher. But I haven't seen that prevalent on racial lines. Not yet.
Well, that's a good thing right now, and you'll
Absolutely.
keep updated, no doubt. Doc, I'd like you to stay with me for the next segment because for one moment, when we come back, I'd like you to put on your political hat and talk to me about how the Trump administration has responded and what you think of that and the best way to move forward. We're talking to Dr. Robin Armstrong. We'll be back with more of the Kelly Wright Show right after this break. Welcome back to the program. I'm talking to Dr. Robin Armstrong, who is an internist and a hospitalist in Texas. He has a practice in a group that is treating a lot of people, including COVID-19 patients who have come to him now, and he's treating them as well. But the doctor is also a politician. He's also a man of faith. And sir, I understand that the political hat that you put on is a necessary step for you to try to help effectuate change for people.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
me what you think of the Trump administration's efforts thus far, because there's been criticism for some of his efforts. Is that fair?
I'll tell you, I think one of the most important things that he did very early on, in fact, this was in the midst of the impeachment fiasco. Very early on, he actually limited travel from China. I think that was so important in reducing the numbers that we have here in this country today. And the Democrats certainly criticized him aggressively for that, calling him, all sorts of names, racist and such. And so, but that was one of the more important things you do. And one thing I tell people is that science really is not politically correct at all. And so sometimes you have to make decisions based on reality and based on the facts and the numbers, and you have to put aside political correctness. And that's one thing that he did. Then shutting down travel from Europe as well later is something that's been instrumental in reducing the numbers here. So I've been so impressed in how he's been able to really mobilize the business community, to be able to mobilize the government and really have all hands on deck trying to defeat this virus. I've been very impressed and I've been very heartened by it. Certainly, if you look at an operation that they're managing right now in the size and scope that it is, then you're certainly going to have issues where you can be critical. But I think overwhelmingly, this president deserves very high marks in how he's handled this situation. I've been very impressed. And when you think about it, it's kind of in his wheelhouse. It's kind of what he does. He manages big business projects, and so he knows how to do that. And so I think he's very much in his element with what he's doing with this big operation here.
Interesting take from you as well, because others have criticized him from the Democrat side and stating that he's not done enough. But let's be clear and let's be fair to everyone. No one has encountered this kind of global pandemic in our life.
Absolutely.
I mean, one could liken it to the swine flu, which was pretty large and significant. But this is a global pandemic that we're all faced with, and this virus, as to your point, and as I mentioned with Katrina Pearson, someone that you know, who's with the Trump campaign, I mentioned to her as well, the coronavirus doesn't know any political stripe. It doesn't know any color.
Absolutely.
It impacts all of us the same way. And if we're not careful, it will kill all of us the same way.
Right.
So
absolutely. And I think that we have to take it very seriously. I think that we need to continue to wash our hands, use aseptic techniques. And I think what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to have a healthier season next cold and flu season. So I suspect that the flu numbers will probably be down next year because of our newfound, cleanliness as a nation. I think that coronavirus is not going to have as much of an impact next year. I think that it's likely that this will be seasonal, just like any cold and flu virus. I think as the summer months come on, we'll probably see a down tick in the numbers of corona infections because these viruses don't tend to do well in the heat and humidity. But then come around late October, early November, we might see a little more of an uptick. And so I think, we're going to be a lot better prepared to deal with it then, because I think likely we're going to have a vaccine by then, even though some folks say 18 months out. I think it's probably going to come faster than that. And we're going to have rapid testing as well. And so we're going to be a lot better prepared next year when I think, this probably will come around again, but it won't have nearly as big of an impact. It won't be nearly as big of a news item, just because we would have already gone through it and we'll be so much better prepared.
I appreciate you, sir. And the best of everything to you, and blessings and prayers for those patients out there that you're caring for who have tested COVID-19 positive, keeping them in our prayers here from the Kelly Wright Show.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, sir. God bless you. We'll be talking again in the future.
God bless you as well.
All right. Back with more of the Kelly Wright Show after this. Welcome back to the Kelly Wright Show. And joining me now is Dr. Ryan Maersk out of Miami. He is head of the Maersk Institute. You're a plastic surgeon, Doc, and how in this age of COVID-19 has your practice been affected?
It's been a big challenge, as is for everyone. So essentially everyone in my position is effectively shut down. There have been a lot of changes in the past 2 weeks. When we saw things coming, we started taking initial steps to try to separate patients and take extra desanitation, decontamination procedures into account. As of now, we're not doing anything elective, which is most of what docs like myself do. So it really affects things globally. We have to take care of patients we're in the middle of taking care of. So post-operative patients, patients with acute needs, if there's anything such as an infection or trauma, we have to continue caring for those people, but we're effectively closed right now.
Congress is doing its act in terms of getting the CARES Act out there and a tranche of $2 trillion to help people. There are people who are in situations that are dire when it comes to cancer and things of that nature. As a plastic surgeon, you're helping quite a few people overcome that cancer. For example, if a woman has to go through a double mastectomy, you're able to provide her with a lot of help in the surgery that will help her feel a lot better mentally and physically. So how do you help them because of this new normal making things quite abnormal, and you can't really get to them as adequately or as quickly as you'd like to.
It's challenging, and this is a actively changing policy. So just yesterday, our society, the American Society of Plastic Surgery, just released a bunch of guidelines. And the official statement is that autologous reconstruction, meaning that if we're going to do have a mastectomy done for cancer and reconstruct the breast with the patient's own tissue, this is considered elective and is advised no go under the current situation. So whereas usually patients can have the removal of breast and the reconstruction done in one go, that's simply not possible right now in an effort to conserve resources and hospital space. There's a little bit of a gray area right now that affects some of my current patients who have new diagnosis of cancer that need to have their mastectomies, low grade, so there's not going to be a lot of post-operative chemo radiation or interventions that ideally in steady state would just have a pretty seamless experience where they go in, they have mastectomy, they wake up with breasts. Now it's a challenge, and I think that very soon it will be kind of a no-go to do that at the same time. So I think no one's going to stop people from scheduling mastectomies, but a lot of hospitals have already said that the reconstructive part is lower priority and can be delayed until we're through the COVID crisis. And there's a lot of ways to think about this. There are reasons, there are good reasons people are taking these decisions very heavily and making these policies. But the toll that COVID is taking on this country, individuals in the world, is way beyond what the average person really realizes. It really is a crisis affecting a lot of people and amplifying stress and anxiety in all corners of our minds.
Dr. Ryan Maersk, thank you so much, and continue on to keep helping people, especially providing the ventilators. It's so important right now. Appreciate you being on the show today, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Godspeed. Welcome back to the program. Joining me now is my good friend, Dr. Benjamin Chavis. He is the president and CEO of the NNPA, that's the National Newspapers Publishers Association, and Black Press USA. He was with us yesterday, and today he brings us what he promised, Chuck D. You had an interview with him on Facebook last night. Quite a few people tuned in, myself included. I thought at times Chuck D was very informative, very inspirational, and he also had an edge.
Absolutely. Well, that's Chuck D. Kelly is always glad to be on the Kelly Wright Show. And of course, history was made last night and today. This being April 1st, Chuck D is dropping a new album, a new song entitled Food as a Machine Gun. And he made connection to the coronavirus pandemic. He made connection to all of the health maladies that African Americans and others are facing even before the pandemic. And of course, he's talking about the importance of making sure that we eat the right food, making sure that we drink the right water, making sure we pay attention to our health. And this coming from an icon, a hip hop icon like Chuck D, I think it was very not only timely, and as you saw, Kelly, we got calls from and emails from Italy, from South Africa. It was a global release last night by blackpressusa.com. I'm so pleased that you were able to join us last night.
And I commend you and the Black Press USA for bringing it and actually dropping the music on the world. Earlier today, I was talking to Katrina Pearson, who is of the Trump campaign, and also a doctor out of Texas who is a politician as well. And they both were talking about how we have to get beyond politics. And yet, you know, politics enters into it and it raises this ugly head. And this is a time that we have to get beyond who sits in the Oval Office, who sits in the congressional seats, but more importantly about who is sitting in our chair, who is sitting at
I know Katrina, she's a dear friend. I'm a Democrat, she's a Republican, but we have mutual respect for one another, and we don't allow partisan politics to interfere with our friendship.
And as you know, we don't play that here on our program anyway. We talk to everybody and anybody.
Exactly. You got to get on, not just both sides of the aisle. You got to get on all sides of the aisle.
Exactly, exactly. And to that point, last night I thought Chuck D was talking about that as well, and he said he has some angst and some consternation with how politicians have led the way here. But I think he also said something very clear, and that is that it's up to every one of us as citizens of the globe, not just America, but the globe, to actually embrace each other, help each other. And the one thing, Doc, that he really pointed out, he was talking about this, the cell phone, our smartphones. Is it a tool, or is it something that we're dependent on?
Right, it should be a tool. And the tool should not rule you, you should rule the tool. And we should use this for information, we should use this for data, we should use this for science, and we should use this for engagement. But the point he was making is that people spend disproportionately using these devices not as a tool. In fact, some of them become attached symbiotically to their devices and to their own detriment. The internet is a great resource if it's used properly, but it also can be a great diversion from reality. And what Chuck D was calling for all of us to do, use our devices to put us in touch with reality, put us in touch with the truth, put us in touch with power. And of course, Public Enemy and Chuck D, they have this thing about speaking truth to power, and certainly that's what he did with the release on blackpressusa.com.
Well, we're going to show his video, his new release, when we come back with my final word. And we thank you for bringing it to us and providing it for us on the Kelly Wright Show, so that we can actually debut it on the Black News Channel as well.
Absolutely. And I want to let you know that going forward, your show, Kelly, is going to be posted on blackpressusa.com. We want all of our 230 newspapers to get the vital program that you bring on a daily basis to Black America. And we appreciate your leadership. We appreciate your journalism. But more than anything, we appreciate your vision. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, man. I really do. That's a blessing to me. Dr. Benjamin Chavis.
Thank you. God bless.
All right. God bless. I want to thank all of our guests who appeared on today's program, and I'll leave you with my final word. Hopefully we've learned from all of our guests that it's important. In fact, it's vital that we all come together. This COVID-19 pandemic should not divide us, but unite us in order that we may go forward to pray together, work together, heal together, cry together, and overcome this together. Having said all of that, hopefully in today's program, you've been righted, ignited, and united to keep spreading love, freedom, and peace, not fear. We'll leave you now with Chuck D and his latest song, Food as a Machine Gun.
How not to die by the weapon formerly known as food. Hell not to die. Sugar, sugar, who you talking to? Dirty water, who be loving you? Stroke, no joke, must have hit that salt. Don't look at me, cause it ain't my fault. I know you want it, say you need it, and you eat it, cause you want it. Sugar, sugar, you don't love me. Sugar, sugar, you don't need me. Now, it be eating me. Eat it up. Got us fighting diabetes. Stress level, sleepless, emotional, mental. Drugs in the food, I love screwing up my physical. I'll never fall in love again. With this hate on my plate.